Another way to put this is from a former, or maybe current, editorial writer at the New York Times. And he's talking about how people, particularly as students, he teaches writing, how they consistently miss the errors in their writing. And so he writes this, Mr. Raymer, in The Trouble with Intentions.
Why didn't the writers catch their mistakes? Probably because they were looking at their intentions, what they meant to say, instead of the words on the page. The sentence as written was invisible to them.
Right? It's that exact sense that Ms. Hoffman was saying, is that you can't read your own writing in a way that you're going to see it clearly. Now, if you can't find somebody outside yourself, what's a way to make yourself kind of strange to your own writing, Mr. Raymer?
Read it aloud.
What'd you say?
Read it aloud.
Why reading it aloud?
Because as you stand up and you're reading it aloud, when you're saying it, you're not like anticipating what you wrote, and so you will speak errors that are on the page that you wouldn't normally catch when you're just reading it silently.
Great. And anybody who comes works with me, that's what we do. You come into my office, we read your memo out loud. We read your cover letter out loud. We read your brief out loud. And you will often catch a mistake before I do, just because of what Mr. Raymer said, of you process your writing differently if you read it out loud. So really embrace the idea of reading out loud. Another thing that you can do to make yourself your own extra ear, print it out on a piece of paper, go somewhere other than where you wrote it. Why would that be helpful advice, Mr. Raymer?
I think that it removes you from the environment where you have this sort of anticipation of what you wrote or attachment to these words, and when you get removed from that, you'll be able to maybe mentally get removed from the writing process and more into the editing and revision process and catch things you wouldn't have caught.
Great. And so with my students, I make it so every assignment they hand in, they have to tell me who their extra ear is. Sometimes it's somebody else in the class, sometimes it's roommate. One time it was one of my students' grandpa, and it was great because it's the sense of they have to explain themselves to an actual other person. And what we found is that it has a super effect on your writing. It really increases your clarity.